Well, here we are again, folks. Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. My heart goes out today. We are always having growing pains. I had a particular friend when I was a young man she had a boy that had terrible growing pains. His body pained him all the time he was growing. As he was growing up, and every time he'd grow a little bit, he had pain. She'd have to get him in the car when he was little and ride him around and keep his mind occupied because of the pain. We have growing pains. As we have growing pains, I tell you what's tough. You plant a seed in hard dirt, real hard dirt, and then you pack the hole and you wet it down. Well, that seed's bursting under that ground, but it's having a hard time to push up through that ground. If we have out here some seeds from our midst that have gone out from where we are, we need to help them. We need to soften the ground around for them. We need to pray that God would soften the ground for them, that as they grow outside of the work they've been in a new work, that God would make the ground loose, that God would make them be the example. Make them be the example. We don't want to pray for drawback on anybody. We want to pray for promotion, for to go ahead, for them to go home at night to be happy, for them to lay down in their bed, talk with their wife, talk with their family, be happy, and be no turmoil in their life. God can do away with turmoil in your life. I live in a tumultuous world. There's turmoil all around me, but I am not going to let that turmoil cause me to have unhappy days. I tell my boys, I have a 13-year-old Sunday school class. I have about 9 boys in my Sunday school class, and I tell you what, I'm looking for every single solitary one of those boys to have a precious and good life. Even if it's a life full of what looks like outside trouble, it won't be inside trouble. That they'll be able to keep Jesus in the forefront. This is my main crux every single Sunday. Keep Jesus in the forefront. I can tell you this right now. You want a blessing in your life? You get saved. You ask Jesus, forgive you of your sin, come in your heart and save your soul. You join a church. You go down and be baptized, saying that I'm willing to do this thing to show separation from the world to God. It's just like when you put this ring on. To thee I wed this woman. And that means I'll not go out with any other woman the rest of my born days of my life. And when you ask Jesus to come in your heart, it means you won't go back to the world. You won't go back to the world. You will go with Jesus. Now we're talking about, there is a season. We're talking about a season. There is a season. You will go through many seasons in your life. And you will bear fruit in some of those seasons, and some of those seasons will be dormant. But don't let those seasons depress you. Keep pressing forward toward the mark of the high calling. Paul said, not that we've achieved yet, but that we will. One day we keep pressing forward. To everything there is a season. To every time there's a purpose under heaven. There's a time to be born. And believe it or not, there is a time to die. A time to be born and a time to die. Are you ready at all times to die? I am ready. I'm Brother Peter, and I'm ready to die right this second. I'm ready to meet the Lord right this second. As far as I know, between the Lord and I, there is nothing that would hinder or hurt if I went on right now. I'm ready to go. A lady asked me the other day, I said, I can keep my own time. I said, I have a couple people in the Bible that are my references, that I look at, that I try to follow behind. There was a man named Ananias who had a wife named Sapphira. They lied about something that they did, and God struck them dead. There was another man, his name was Achan. And Achan took a goodly bar of gold, some little silver, and a goodly garment, and buried him in his tent, and they were supposed to go to the house of the Lord. Does that speak volumes about tithing? That speaks volumes about tithing. The tithe belongs to God. That's the first 10% of every single solitary penny you make belongs to God. And if you don't give it to Him, you got it buried in the ground and you're a thief, and you will not prosper. You will not prosper. God said, if you rob me, you will not prosper. Go over into the book of Habakkuk, and the Bible said, have I robbed God? And it said, yes, you have. You've robbed Him of the tithes and the offerings. That's above the tithe. That's above the tithe. Listen, sowing and reaping is a principle that can't be flaunted. It happened in the Garden of Eden. God sowed the Garden of Eden. And the Garden of Eden was beautiful, and it yielded fruits. And God has much interest in sowing and reaping. He has much interest in His people, like myself, that He sowed a good seed in after 32 years of alcohol and following the wrong route, and then saved me and put a new seed in me and brought me forth. And you know, there is a time to plant, and there is a time to pluck up that which is planted. Now, I'm using this verse today, right now, for this reason. We had some people in our church of recent that were planted there, been planted there a long time, a long time. Well, God has allowed them to be plucked up and put into another garden. Now, they're transplants. Now, transplants are good, but you have to be careful with transplants. If you're not careful with transplants, they will die, or they'll wilt, or they will have, by the way, they will go through that wilting period when you expose those roots to the air and then you put them back in the ground. There's going to be a wilting time. But that will go by, that will pass by, and they will flourish again. I pray that God would have every single transplant from Faith Baptist Church to grow, to get through the wilting time, and to be, wherever they are, to be the active and the person they have learned to be at Faith Baptist Church. The Sunday school classes they have sat in, the lessons they have sat under, the preaching they have sat under. I pray for prosperity for every single solitary person who has ever come through Faith Baptist Church. Well, you say, what about the one that seemingly did the worst? Yes, he needs a little more prayer than the others, because the devil will trouble his mind, even though if he has said, God, forgive me of that sin and cleanse me and help me never to do anything like that again. Help me to follow you and go forward. God will do that. But the devil will beat his mind to death if he's not careful, making him think that he's unworthy. We're all unworthy. No matter how heinous his sin looks, we may have a sin that looks just as bad in the eyes of God. Rebellion is rebellion. Whether it's big rebellion or little rebellion, rebellion is rebellion. And rebellion brings forth a separation that you don't really want. But listen, all of this in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 talks about a time to be born, and very quickly talks about a time to die. Our pastor said this Sunday, yesterday, he said this, that from the womb to the tomb, we come out of our mother's womb headed for the tomb, headed for the graveyard, some sooner and some later. I'm going to tell you this, in this day and age, we have young people falling off like flies and dying and going to hell because us older folks aren't doing our job. We need to get out, reach those people, show those people we are who we say we are. We are Christians. Show those people we're Christian. Show those people Jesus. If you'll show them Jesus, they'll come around. They'll come around. You may have to sow a couple times. You may have, I tell you, I have sowed in the garden, and for some reason a seed hadn't come up. And what you do, you drop another seed in that hole, and you tenderly love it, and you tenderly bring it up. And that's what you do with those seeds that are out there. We need to tenderly work and be loving. That's what God would have us do. My time's come and gone. I must go. See you next time. Bye-bye.